What is up, Overwatch community? My name is Trips, and welcome back to another episode of Watchpoint, the show where we cover everything Overwatch related. Today on the show, we're going to be kind of wrapping up beta and talking about where we started, where we are now, and what to expect past launch. But before we get into that, I want to welcome back to the show once again Volcha, our lovely editor.
Hello.
And Yiska. You get to go second this time.
Damn.
Gotta get everyone their turn.
Yeah.
But before we get into the topics, some more stuff I wanted to mention. If everything, looks right on the YouTube channel and on the video, there should be a lovely video going on behind us, or right next to us, rather. And if you guys want your video, we usually like, longer stuff rather than the little, 10, 15 second play of the games. You can send your video file to watchpointtv at gmail.com. No spaces, no underscore, nothing like that. Just watchpointtv. Also, next show, I don't know if it's going to be next week, but next show, I do want to try out on Twitch streaming, and that URL will be on our Twitter. So check out our Twitter page, follow us. And for YouTube, we are almost past 50 subs. It seems minor, but it's a nice little milestone for us. I mean, the game's not even out yet, so we're going to keep on trucking. So first topic is just the major balance changes and how characters have changed since the start of beta. So things, I think this was actually before beta, things like Bastion got his new ultimate, things like how I believe the bubble on Winston, how that changed, things like that. Is there any major changes that you guys think are good or bad that have changed?
The big Zenyatta change, I'd say that's on the top. One of the top changes they made. That and the Genji, I think, what was it, Genji health to 150? That was a big change, too.
Yeah, he went from 200 to 150.
Yeah. I feel like the Zenyatta change, it kind of broke his mechanic a little bit. The line of sight thing it's pretty tough. I like to play Zenyatta a lot, and it's tough. I think they should revisit some of that a little bit. Maybe not put it back the way it was, but maybe tweak it, make it a longer duration out of sight. I don't know. It definitely changed a lot in the game for competitive anyways. I mean, Zenyatta is basically not very viable at the moment, it seems.
Yeah. Things like that. Let's see what else. Even though it got changed back, one of the biggest, I think, oops moments, and I think the community responded really fast, was the whole Mercy not being able to fly to dead allies anymore. That was a big hiccup that we're grateful that they did change back.
Yeah. I mean, if you guys remember, like way back, when the big one huge change for Mercy was the nerf in the range, right?
Yeah. Oh, the res range. Yeah, that was a while ago.
90K basically, Like, it was insane. Everyone was playing Mercy 100% of the time in Lucio. And then it switched to more Zenyatta focus, almost no Mercy, some. But yeah, that was a big change. Also, they reduced their damage buff from 50% to 30 or 33, not sure. Mm-hmm. And yeah, those were huge changes to Mercy, right?
Yeah. A couple of different... No, are you continuing?
Go on.
Okay. A couple other things as far as like maps go. Things like on... I can't even think of the name. But on Farah's map, on the Egypt map, you...
Anubis.
Got that extra... Anubis, thank you. You get the extra path, things like that have changed. Even the small stuff, like on Hollywood, removing that box that Torbjorn used to sit behind, protecting the A point.
Yeah. I mean, another huge change was that they removed ultimate building from receiving damage, right?
Yeah, that was
changed a lot in the game.
Yeah, that was before the first break, or
Yeah.
during the first break.
That made like Junkrat unusable beforehand, and now he's used like sometimes in competitive.
Yeah, I mean, whenever Winston pops up or something. Yeah. Not whenever, because there's this weird trend where 2 Winstons is not counted by Junkrat, and possibly because of Tracer. But yeah, I don't know. Like, it's quite interesting how... I mean, are there really champions that you don't at all see in competitive at the moment?
Is May played that much? Because I don't think she's played at all.
Okay, that's a fair point, I think. Yeah, May not much. Yeah.
What about Diva aside from control points?
True.
like scrambling.
True. Yeah, true. I mean, Diva herself had a couple of changes around her, right? She used to be like I remember starting out playing with my friends, and they're usually very good at predicting what's too strong, and they have Q&A experience from professionally, and they actually said Diva should be overpowered in many ways, right?
Yeah.
Especially in beta 1 phase, but it never really, other than the Diva spam, obviously, never really came out, I guess. And and right now she's not at all meta, and her probably, I mean, maybe people will start getting smarter about her ultimate, but it's very, very hard to apply, I feel like.
Yeah.
I keep, maybe I don't know enough about competitive, but I keep wondering why they don't use her to kind of deal with the Tracer bullshit, because, I mean, she could take a lot of damage from Tracer because of the armor, and she could chase Tracer down. I can't wrap my head around that. I'm sure someone smarter than me can, like, illuminate why she's not being used for that.
Yeah. I mean, I think she has a hard time tracking her down, and she's just an ultimate factory for the Tracer, in the same way Roadhog could be.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost, yeah. I mean, the problem is that Tracer is probably too mobile for Diva. If Diva could just run and shoot full speed, it might work. But right now, her boost is basically, I guess you can bridge 2 blinks, but then she still has her E and a 3rd blink. So yeah, it feels hard, I think.
Yeah. Another couple major changes, I feel, I'm just kind of rehashing through some of these patch notes. The change for Symmetra shields from 50 to 25, I feel like was a bit big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, in general, Symmetra, right?
Yeah. Symmetra got changed. This was a little while ago, when she could no longer charge her ultimate with a teleporter out. So she didn't have another teleporter right away. I feel like Symmetra has, even though in pubs it doesn't feel like people play her that often, they play her when, somebody needs to support and they don't want to play a healer. But it feels like Symmetra, honestly, is probably one of the heroes that has slowly just gotten nerfed and nerfed and nerfed because she is so good.
Yeah.
Or at least her win rate is high.
Yeah. She got a huge buff, I feel like, at some point where they changed her left click. You know, that this void ray mechanic where the damage ramps up.
Yeah.
And she really has kill potential in these skirmishes. Basically, the thing is, she's so reliable in punishing mistakes. Like, if you screw up and don't hit your shots, Symmetra is also quite good at dodging. She doesn't really have to care about her movement in cooperation with her aim, so she can just run around however she wants and still do full damage. And at some point, it takes a lot, and it actually destroys tanks too. At some point, yeah. And then at the end of the clip, if there's 2 squishies and the one squishy is screwing up and lets you charge up, and you switch, she just destroys, right? So that combined with these breaking points that seem to be hit with her shields, I mean, that's basically that was quite an interesting statement. I think it was from JCAP where they questioned, is it actually the shield that's making her so strong, or what is it really? They didn't know, right? I think the thing is often, like, I really would love to see the numbers on how big the difference between 50 and 25 was, because it feels like the big point of it is basically it could be 1, basically, right? Yeah. Whether there's the breaking point, but then again, it also, like, 50 is a lot of passive heals, so to speak, right?
Yeah,
you're just running around, especially if you're thinking of a squishy character. 50, if he has 150 HP, now that's 1/4 of his HP is constantly regenerating while no healer is around, and that's a big deal, right? So yeah, I love to see some statistics on that, and would be awesome if Blizzard could state,
provide us with numbers.
Yeah, they asked the question: is it the barrier or the shield, and I hope they answer that question to us too.
Yeah. Another thing that we actually forgot about, or at least I forgot about until I'm going over these patch notes, is the Torbjorn and Bastion changes that kind of like it didn't kill Torbjorn, but it kicked him down a few notches, and Bastion seems like really powerful now. With it, like a couple of tournaments that I watched, they did like what they're coining as Protect the President, where they do like Bastion and 2 Reinhardts with a Mercy and 2 Widows. And I know Cloud9 ran it for one and just wiped the floor with Desperados. I know it's Cloud9 versus Desperados, but they kicked him into the dirt. They didn't even, give him a chance.
Yeah.
And the removal of that shield from Bastion, I remember when I first heard about it, I thought it would be horrible because how are you going to stay alive as Bastion? But if you are on like a one-on-one in Bastion, he'll kill you in 2 seconds.
Almost like the shield doesn't really matter in a lot of ways.
No, because of the amount of damage that he does now.
Yeah.
I liked the Torbjorn change ultimately, and I think it improved him a little bit. It felt really...
he's not so reliant on his turret anymore. He's an actual hero.
He wasn't reliant. He's not so reliant on scrap, He had to use scrap to upgrade, and that I didn't play. I wasn't in beta when that was implemented, but I imagine that would have been very frustrating to play as a player.
It was
relying on people dying to upgrade your stuff, and
because you could pick it up on the map like you can in like TF2 or something.
And you can't really. You gotta like basically use him as a snowball type character, and that. I don't know. That doesn't seem like him, but yeah, he's kind of fun to play now. I don't think he's very like comp friendly, but I don't know. I don't know what they could do to fix that either. It's inherent to the auto aim turret mechanic, I'd say. That and new players. You gotta. It's a balancing act, I guess.
Yeah. This is one thing on the subreddit that has been mentioned yet now, where someone found out if you place a turret onto a medpack spawn, it heals and repairs the turret.
Yeah, I saw that.
Right?
Really?
I really hope people actually do that, because, like, for one, you take the, if you have area control, sometimes your players want to take that med kit, obviously.
Yeah.
Right? And the second one is, if I'm, like, for instance, in Envoy if I'm, like, on the left top, and I'm, like, at 70%, let's say it's a Pharah, I'm like, wow, nice, free ultimate charge. Like, oh, big med pack, let's load up, It's like, it's probably more detrimental against good players than it really helps.
It's a cool little, like, oh, that's cool that it does that, but actually doing it, I don't think it helps you at all.
It probably stops.
A lot of the map item locations are like not in favorable like zones where you can hold down a choke. They're usually in buildings or whatever. I can imagine it kind of working in some instances, but it's kind of a fun thing. I want to try it. I haven't tried it yet. When beta comes back, that's probably one of the first things I'm going to mess with.
Okay. Yeah. I don't really remember too much. I bet I'm missing a ton. I know Mercy's res now the effect actually happens at the end of the cast instead of the start. Things like that. I know I'm missing a few, but I'm remembering from my side of the beta because I didn't play technically last year. I played this year when beta relaunched. Is there anything from previous beta that you remember, Yiska, as far as the heroes go?
Well, a big one is surely that Lucio isn't good at dueling anymore. Like his damage. Treat yourself to some of the good Lucio videos before the change went live. For instance, there's this guy, Duck or something, DHAK, and he had sick movement and sick aim basically as Lucio, and he was dueling people all the time, and his damage, like the damage output is crazy, right? Yeah. Now, it feels so lackluster to even shoot. It's like I'm shooting people not really to kill them, but because it fills my numbers up for the ultimate, right? And that's, I don't know if I like that really. I don't know. It doesn't feel as fun, but whatever. Like I think it helped a couple of people to realize that this dueling playstyle is not really what Mushu is about. It's more like facilitating your team, healing everyone up, speeding everyone up. like, okay, I've seen so many comments saying like you should never speed boost. You know, like what's it? The E, ramp up. You should never ramp up speed. I'm like, really, dude?
Right
Like
from the start, you do.
You do it from the start, and then also when you gain momentum, when you reaper ults and stuff, you know, those are the situations. It's quite valuable in some situations. Obviously, it is also very valuable as a heal sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not nearly an always heal, you know. So yeah, I think that was a big one. Lucio change. What else was there? Obviously, Zenyatta was put on the map. Like healing shields, right? That was a big run that unit could now do that. Also to Zarya, that was quite big.
One of the Lucio changes they did is they changed the size of his projectile so he doesn't get like headshots. You know, if he's aiming at the belly button. I think that was a big way that people were getting damage with him, was those super easy headshots.
Yeah. And then the melee change, if you guys remember.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it used to do 50, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it had 1.5 second cooldown, and now it had 1 second, but less damage. So that was an interesting change, and it probably didn't help any character, if I think correctly. Like, nobody has an actual rotation where you can offset the damage you lose, because most of the damage rotations, it's like, if you have one ability once, for instance, Roadhog obviously doesn't contribute. Like, his combo is to shoot, pull, then shoot again, and do the melee attack. There's not a second choice for a melee attack a second later, right? So it was best for him to have this oomph right with the first melee, and this is pretty much with every single character. I think you could make a case for Tracer that very good players could, but come on, that's just, you know, outplaying someone way less skilled than you are if you can hit him with melee attacks twice within a second. You know, it's like it was a straight up nerf to melee, I think. So
one of the newest game types, which was, when was this? This is not the right one. One of the newest game types. There we go. February 9th. So this was the open beta for this year. Or not open beta, the opening of the beta for this year is Control Point. So how do you guys feel about Control Point? Do you have a favorite map between Lijiang Tower, Nepal, and Ilios? Do you have a favorite point at all?
I like Ilios overall just because it's so vertical, and that's kind of not what the others present. I like Control Point because it's pretty hectic, always action. You know, it's pretty tense, and I like it.
I feel like it has a bit of a different meta from the other two. Not completely, but like
it's about controlling. See things like
double Reaper and double Lucio.
Yeah.
I have to say that although I do like Ilios because of it's completely different than any other map because of how bright it is, I do think I like Lijiang Tower a bit more just because of the points on it. Ilios still hasn't stuck with me that much.
I think that I'm quite with you there. Like the color set is nice. It feels most fun basically out of the maps from a visual point of view. But yeah, I think Lijiang Tower is pretty nice from a playing standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I have to say, I think Nepal, the last point, I guess there's no more last points, but what used to be the last point, it's probably my favorite one from all of them.
Yeah, I really do like the last point quotes for Ilios, though. The like construction zone in the whole map is just like a line. So it's also very different that it's like a super narrow map. And people like Pharah, you can, right from the spawn, you can rocket boost up and start attacking people on the point. I don't know if you can do that on pretty much any other map, you know, because of the way that the map is set up.
Yeah, it feels a little bit, probably nobody's going to agree with me, but this fight area feels a little bit like 2 Fort in Team Fortress, where there was this big, you know, two levels, and then the sort of pit thing. I mean, I know the map is more than that, obviously, with the deep down stuff, but like just like the middle part kind of feels like Two Forge for me.
Yeah, it's weird. It seems like there's like a pit in it. I mean, there is literally a pit, but it feels like that's the center of the map, and it's like people fighting up top and people fighting down in the pit. The people in the pit have to worry about the people up top too, so the pit itself is just super dangerous.
Yeah.
And you just see Winston's and Reinhardt's duking it out down there.
I can see the 2-fort reference, because the best way to defend it once you have it is to fall back a little bit and defend from the cover and the high ground and let them come into the bowl to be mixed up.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's like you almost get stage fright when everyone's looking at you, and it's like there's usually only two guys, right? And whoever wins the duel is like the champion, and everyone's like, yeah, you got it, boy. I don't know.
It's a lot different than the other maps because besides Nepal, and I think Nepal has the squared in map. It has the risen statue, but the statue itself is pretty crowded with pillars and things like that. There are a couple open windows, and the last point where there's the huge pit on the one side inside the temple, that one's pretty open, but there's also pillars. It's just weird that the construction point map, it seems super open, whereas most of the other points are in something with a few open points.
It feels very claustrophobic to me, not open, just because there's stuff everywhere, and it feels like Reapers are everywhere. You know, every corner you pull around, there's a Reaper there, like in your face. It feels like there's a lot of blind corners in that map, and I don't know. I kind of like that. If you're Pharah, though, it feels very open because you're just above all the stuff and you just shoot down on people.
I love how basically every map in my head is like, oh yeah, this is a Reaper drop spot. You know, it's like, okay, let's think of Numbani. Oh yeah, there's a shitload of, balconies where you can drop off. Let's look up. Oh, they don't even have a Reaper. Oh, let's look anyway. You know, it's like always scared of the Reaper. PTSD. I don't know.
Okay. So any other changes that you guys want to mention before we jump on to comp and meta?
Well, they added the whole competitive mode, I guess.
I mean, we're going to talk about the ranking system later. I just meant changes as far as balance and map changes. Yeah. Any openings on the maps besides that one that I mentioned?
I mean, the one thing that was quite big, I think, and you guys probably didn't play on that version, was you could, as Reinhardt, you could build your ultimate from damaging people that were ultimated by you. So it was like, okay, all three guys charge into charge into them. Oh, I'm at 50% again. You know, like sometimes Reinhardt was like top damage in some of these games, and Reinhardt impact was just insane at that time. Right?
Wasn't there also a time where shields, when they get damaged, you would charge from your own shield?
From Reinhardt, Reinhardt's shield used to.
If so, then very, very early, and I wasn't actually like in the very first wave. I was like, I think 1 or 2 weeks later, so that might have been in before that, but when I played it, never was in. So
okay. Moving on to our next topic is just going to be as far as what competitive has taught us. Just watching professionals, the top players in the game play against each other, and why it's obviously I don't know why I said that weird. Why it's obviously super fresh, and there's plenty to discover as the patches keep rolling out and things like that. There is kind of, a top ranking. Cloud9, number 1 currently. I know some teams have actually dropped out as far as playing. They're more so just practicing, and they haven't been showing up. But the current lineup right now, as far as Gosu is considered, as Cloud9, Envious, Reunited, Creation, and Luminosity is the top 5, with Cloud9 being number 1.
Oh, damn.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, damn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, they're the most consistent lineup on that list too, right? So
Kaikai's a badass, so
yeah. I mean, I'm a little bit of a Shofor fanboy, so Yeah. I think in general, like, they've been showing some pretty versatile, and there's this meme on this Discord, competitive Discord, where it's like, when they brought out the Bastion, like, some guy on Reddit just commented, or it might have even been their opponents or something, and he just commented, yeah, well, let's not kid ourselves, you just won because you were creative. It's like, like, creative.
How's that a bad thing?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, because they brought out a pick that came from left field, you know, nobody was expecting it, and it's like, yeah, well, that's the game, bro. Like,
yeah. Stupid Bastion pickers. You guys only won because you picked a character. I don't know. I saw them, like I said, I saw them wipe the floor with a couple of teams. I actually dropped a set looking at their Gosu record. They haven't dropped a set in the last 10 plus sets, so they're just consistent. Envious is on and off with a win-loss, win-win-loss. You know, they're back and forth.
I think we didn't have a cast yet, by the way, and it kind of broke my heart that they broke up. You know, the team. I really liked them as, like.
Yeah.
Also, some players are not on the team anymore, right? Or not even.
What happened to Google Me?
Google Me is Cloud9, but it's you think you mean. What happened to Envious, basically, and it was kind of a weird switcheroo. I was Envy breaks up, right?
Yeah,
and it's like, oh, damn, where's everyone going? And then Tailspin is like, yeah, well, I got an opportunity, and he joins IDDQT, and then it's like, wow, IDDQT, man, that like they're all Europeans. I wonder how that will turn out, by the way, especially because we saw some motions maybe in the tournament organizers scene that they might region lock offline tournaments because it's quite stressful to organize with time zones and everything, and ping obviously, and switching servers between each game to make it fair just sucks.
That's what happens. That's what they do in Dota too.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, when the player base increases, obviously you kind of want to separate the
well, you're not going to do that for online. Everything. But
yeah, and
there's gonna be plenty of teams that come out of nowhere that haven't been in beta that are just gonna switch over from other games.
Yeah, and it's like now, you know that Tailspin is on that lineup, and then they joined Envious. By the way, you know, after all that, I think that kind of tells us that Envious, because IDQ had been holding back on the sponsorships. Okay, fair enough. Tivik and Mendo left, but like these guys have been holding out for a sponsor, and now that Envious was free, they kind of, you know, committed to them, which tells me they are providing pretty good salary, or let's say not even salary, but you know, something to look forward to. Yeah, forward to the future. Like, yeah, we're going to support you in doing blah, like streams, like going to offline tournaments possibly. And yeah, that's why they are now signed with them, and Tailspin is still on this lineup, which is kind of heartwarming because he was also with Coolmat, my favorite player on that team. So yeah.
So what do you think as far as once again looking back to now, from, you know, some of the early comps, things like when the double Winston, double Reaper was just all over the place, things like that. What's your favorite comp that has been brought out by a team?
I'd say double Winston's my least favorite, personally. That was just awful.
Yeah.
I kind of like the buff, the Tracer Genji, specifically in the early days when it was Genji. That was pretty fun to watch.
Yeah,
especially when it was first debuted. What was it, like? I think it was IDDQT that debuted it, like in some scrim or something. And I saw that, and no tanks. You know, I was like, oh my god, what is this? This is gonna be awesome. That was
awesome. It's also like where we've seen. Like, they obviously dominated a lot, and we've actually seen super high level of play from Mendo, from Tivik. You know, these guys were just insane on these characters, and it was very entertaining to watch for me, even though a lot of people hated God Comp. I guess everything, like, you need variety for the masters to like it, and even for the players to like it. Right? There's very few personalities that can play the same comp forever and be content with it and feel like they're improving and everything. But like technically, if I were to describe what I'm looking for in Overwatch matches, like having these high skill characters have such an impact, and then the star players also, living up to the roles. It was my favorite era of the beta, to be honest. Even though obviously it became quite tedious at some point when the comp is great, but if your best counter to it is playing it yourself, then obviously something is wrong, right?
Yeah. It's flawed, but I'd say of the meta mix-ups, it was my favorite so far. Hopefully we get better. That's what I'm looking forward to. Is something better.
Do you guys think any hero shines out amongst their role group as an easy first pick? Like, should always be on a team.
Probably Tracer, most likely. I mean, she's consistent damage dealer, plus she's good at contesting.
I would honestly say that I think McCree beats, as far as like always having on a team. I feel like McCree's a lot stronger than Tracer.
Are we talking
potential
right now, or are we talking over the entire course of the beta? Because
I mean, like I guess you could say over the course, like who has always been on top.
Yeah, McCree was definitely a very solid pick at every point in the game. Even though not every point, because at some point obviously Genji was just ridiculous.
Genji was ridiculous, but
so McCree is surely like one of the most reliable characters because he's also just straight up FPS. Like if you're good at left clicks, that's fine. Right click is a little bit problematic, but they kind of took care of that with the latest patch.
Yeah, I mean he used to before. I'm pretty sure he used to just be able to snipe people before they had a damage drop off added to him. That was a while ago though.
That was another big change they made, the balance change. Yeah.
Because he was basically like a Widow. He was just kill people.
Yeah.
Yep. As far as that goes, I don't know. I haven't been following too much. I do watch competitive, because comp is technically whatever. I do watch the pros every now and again, but I don't feel like we've had, a huge like BlizzCon tournament or something like that where everyone is watching and it's like everything's on the line. It's just a couple of these weekly tournaments, and while they're important to the game, they're not that huge major tournament. And I hope that I don't want to say things change by the time that BlizzCon comes, but I want to see things shake up. I want to see like May, and I want to see Zenyatta back on top. I want to see people pick Hanzo, things like that. Besides the was it? I can't remember who it was. Somebody played Hanzo. I want to say it was Kai. Yeah. And he proved that you can play Hanzo and do well with him, but he's not, all the time pick. He's like we said with the left field pick that surprises people, and you win with it because of that surprise factor. But I just want to see things shake up. I want to see people pick, Zarya become number 1 or something crazy like that for BlizzCon. Because it's nice to have exciting moments rather than, they're picking that team comp again and they're going to win with it, and it's like the two team comps are the same pretty much against each other.
Yeah. The one thing we have to say about BlizzCon is, as far as we know and what they have said, is there's not going to be a tournament at BlizzCon.
Really?
Yeah. The thing is, I still very much expect like either an invite, like for a team or something, or a show match sort of thing.
I feel like even if they didn't stream it, they would have something there to promote the game.
Yeah. Maybe we get new characters at BlizzCon.
Oh god, that's gonna shake things up a lot. The only thing I hate though is, while it does, you will eventually see it in balance. But like things when like Heroes of the Storm, when you get a new character in Heroes of the Storm, they're just OP for the first week, and then they get nerfed. I just don't want that to affect tournaments. I wish that they would keep them in beta for a little bit longer.
I'd
And I
like
don't
to
know if
see
they're gonna.
I'd like to see a new sniper character personally. I feel like that field needs to be
Yeah,
expanded.
we only have two.
No.
But what could they even have? I think the only thing my brother told me would be like a lightning rifle from like old Unreal Tournament, something like that.
That shoots through walls or something like this, like a railgun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Together with Widow.
Yeah, with Widow would be so overpowered. It would just take like super long to charge up or something like that.
Maybe, yeah. Obviously, I'm still looking forward to it.
That would even be like his ultimate. You know, like he has a normal, I don't know, like a normal lightning rifle or something like that that can daze people and slow them. And then once he gets it charged up, he has like 4 shots or 5 shots with a railgun that shoots through walls. That would actually be pretty sick.
I'd almost like to see a sniper kind of like the old McCree mechanic where he had, sick damage where you would just click on heads from far away. That'd be kind of neat, but without like the close range capability he had too. That'd be kind of fun, I think, for a sniper character.
Yeah.
A semi-auto type sniper that was, I don't know, from the hip more, you know what I mean?
Do you think that a passive character would work at all? Because I know like things like at Dota they have like techies, and in League of Legends they have like Teemo and things like that, like a trap character, where it's they more affect the map rather than like engaging with people directly. Would that even work in an FPS?
It could work in an FPS, and to an extent, I guess some elements are there in Junkrat, you could say.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it would probably, like, depending on how you do it, if you think about how choke point-ish Overwatch maps are, might not be something you want to introduce, but it is super fun. Like every time I always enjoyed these characters where you're basically predicting what your opponent is going to do in advance, not like a moments thing, but like a carefully planned stuff.
Yeah, like you
just
place your bets.
Exactly, and then you just get a huge payoff from that. I think it's quite entertaining, but I wonder if it fits the FPS style, and it would give huge, but it would be huge from a backlash from the competitive community, because one thing you have to understand is like the majority of these competitive players are coming from FPS titles, and they're just really good at clicking heads, and every character that is not clicking heads is not what they want to play, right?
I mean, like, Symmetra doesn't click heads, but
exactly. No, that's exactly the point. Like, it's like my friends from TF2 that were like the super sickest players aren't going to play because Winston doesn't need to aim. It's like, yeah, okay. But they don't understand that, like this. If you just think about the fragging type heroes, like there's such beauty in the variety of skill sets that you need. Just think of Pharah, where you have like the guy that just has the geometry of every projectile and every movement, and predicts the movement of the player. Body shots him, air body shots. That's sick. Then you have guys like Valutaha from Reunited, who just is super amazing on Mercury because he has sick tracking, and basically from a more less mobile point of view. And then you have guys like Tivik, who can aim super well, and while being super quick. He has like, that's basically his skill set with Genji, where he can like time that. Very get the melee attack in. It's so different skill sets in your fragging abilities. Now, where's the problem in having other skill sets? Like.
Wait, I don't mean to interrupt. Did anyone else just like lag really hard?
Yeah, I lagged out.
Okay, I just.
Could you not hear me?
You turned into a robot for like a couple seconds.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, but basically my point is, like, there's so many different skill sets, and you could argue that, for instance, a character like Mercy offers himself to like very good WoW healers or something. That their skill set is positioning, their skill set is tracking cooldowns of the opponents. Their skill set is like just
But that's what I like, is that I grew up playing, Halo and Counter-Strike and things like that. So I like the FPS, but for the past 5-6 years I've been on a MOBA kick, and I've been playing these competitive MOBAs, and it kind of combines the two, where it's both, clicking and killing people, but it's also, charging your ultimate, being strategic as a team, coordinating different abilities together and things like that. So it's combining two different worlds, and that's why I like to see the heroes that challenge it, where it's, yes, they can survive in an FPS, and it makes it, it's still an FPS at its core, but it does have that layer on top of it that makes it different.
Yeah.
And
I wonder how much. I wonder how much they're going to exploit this or use all the different skill sets that you could possibly have. So, for instance, one thing that's largely like a no-no almost, the only game that really did it was Natural Selection, where you had like this RTS approach to one player on the map.
Yeah, the commander.
The commander, and we have a similar character with what's his face in Heroes of the Storm.
Abathur.
Abathur, yeah. But, it's not out of the question that we might get a character similar to this. It could even, if they design the systems for a better observer client, maybe they can, adopt this and get this on top vision, and then have this commander type person.
That'd be so crazy.
Make the lore basically, it's like the hacker kit, the hacker kit that hacks into the CIA satellites and everything, and they deploy drone type stuff, and then at some point it's like he hacks into the orbital nukes, from what's it called?
His ultimate would be like an aerial strike.
Yeah, exactly.
Holy shit!
A ray that just burns everything.
Why was this not your character creation when we were creating characters?
I remember there.
And it's basically frail nerd that's just setting and typing code. That's his character, but he's totally badass because you never see him.
I remember when they first announced Diva, there was speculation she was going to do some stuff like that. We didn't know she was going to have a mech and beat people up with a mech. They were speculating that she was going to do RTS stuff.
Yeah, you just have to set up right. You couldn't do it. You couldn't set up quotes out in spawn. You have to be out so the team can technically kill you. But you're just like Abathur, where you can just you do not go into any, because you have 100 health or something. But you can set up. You can affect. You can heal people and drop med packs, or drop a drone that goes out and kills attacks people and does damage. And then your ultimate would be, like you said, orbital whatever lasers or something like that. Be sick. That's.
Go ahead.
That's what I want. That's what I'm saying. Push the away from the FPS while still being in an FPS.
For a skill set that's not heavily represented, there's the RTS as one that's not as movement. This Tracer kind of is a movement. But I want to see, you can get, really balls to the wall, good at movement, and then win that way. That's what I want to see for another character.
Yeah, that would be super nice. Also, the mechanic where it's the better you aim, the more you heal type of...
Yeah. Man, we keep lagging here.
To be the case.
Skype is being horrible to us right now.
Yeah, the feed is interrupting constantly.
Anyways, before Skynet catches us, we can move on from I think we trail images. Do you like it? Do you not like it? I think we've talked about this before, so we can just touch on it real fast. Do you think it needs to be updated after launch? Because it seems a bit grindy.
Can you repeat the question?
Did you not hear it at all?
No, before you do, let me try to interpret what it could have been. I think
did I freeze? Did you guys not hear me at all?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's You're asking about the either you're talking about the leveling and how you get the loot crates, or you're talking about how you rank up in rank mode. Either one.
No, ranked up in ranked mode, because I feel like it's really grindy.
It is, yeah.
And I think the whole, while it's nice, I think that whole like buffer where it's like, well, if you lose, you don't really lose. You can be with everybody else in the next rank, but you know, just try your hardest and you get something. I think that's stupid.
I think it fails at what it sets out to do, which is to like promote strong, good competitive play between players and like strong matches. It doesn't seem to promote that. It seems to promote grinding. And
it doesn't make sense until the next season hits. Do you know what I mean? So the first season, you grind as hard as you possibly can, and then once the season resets, you're not all the way back, but you're at like your starting point, and then you grind, and eventually it like weeds people into the territories that they need to be. But the first probably 1 to 2 seasons are going to be terrible.
There was that Reddit post a while ago where someone had a 50% win rate and they got all the way up to Masters or Champion or whatever it was, just from 50% win rate. And
I recall there's technically, I think mathematically, okay, I'm probably getting it wrong, but either 41 or 43% win rate where you could grind up all the way to Masters. You only need 41% or 43% because of the win streaks. And how it falls, like mathematically, the averages is that you sometimes will get the win bonus, and it makes it so that you don't need to win 50-50, but 43% is enough. And that is always I don't know, man. These systems where you just play enough and then you get there. There used to be a problem. There used to be a problem in WoW 2 where we had an MMR system that wasn't zero sum. So basically, if two teams played each other again and again and again, the ratings just increased. Yeah. So what that meant was 2 teams were just queued against each other at the middle of the night. You wake up and it's like, dude, what the hell? when we went to bed and we were first, and these guys are at 2.9. What's going on, man?
That was actually the best. That was the best freeze. It froze right when you were yelling. right when you get like the most emotion in your face, it just freeze frame at you yelling.
What they should do is do placement matches. Do like 10 placement matches, and then you get your rank from those 10, and then there you are, and then you either hold on to it and rank up from there, or you lose it. That's what I think you should get.
I mean, we had almost a whole cast about that, so we can move on to probably the first question I think that we ever had on Watchpoint, which is there enough content for the purchase price? The purchase price of the game right now, with none of the pre-order BS, besides I think you do get the Widow skin if you pre-ordered it, is $40 for American, whatever poundage. Sorry, I don't know euro money. What is it for?
40 euros, yeah.
It's the same. I don't know. Yeah. Conversion rates, whatever.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's enough content currently in the game right now to warrant that price tag?
It's kind of a subjective question, but you could say answer it a couple different ways. You could say like the market right now says it's a good deal because there's been a lot of online play only games that have been full price that have sucked balls, to put nicely, and this game doesn't suck balls. So as far as that goes, it's worth the price. Me personally, I think it's worth the price. I like competitive games anyways. I would have bought this game whether the market was like that now or like 10 years ago. I would have bought this game for probably the same price.
My biggest thing is that I just spent $10 buying a skin for Tracer in Here's the Storm. And so that's a quarter of the purchase price of Overwatch for just a skin. And I know in Dota, in League, in Heroes, in Smite, all those free-to-play games, Hearthstone too, people don't realize that, $5 here, $5 here, $5 here, $5 here, eventually does add up to like hundreds of dollars that you spent on a free game. And so the fact that Overwatch has the initial barrier so that people can't cheat and bot multiple accounts as easy. Yes, I know people technically can, but as easily. You get what they've quoted for free maps and heroes forever, and you get earnable cosmetics. So you don't have to buy the cosmetics, you just earn them slower than everybody else. You know, when they do eventually release the chests for price or for buying, because they will. It's a business, they have to make money whether you like it or not. Excuse me. I think that the game is well worth $40, and I spent $60 on it. So I think it is 100%, especially, you know, with the new, like the Tavern Brawl style. I can't remember it's like Weekly Brawl or something. I haven't actually played it that much until they invent new things besides all McCree, all Hanzo Genji, all girls, you know, some like actual, something stupid like everyone has unlimited ultimates. Something like that would be fun. The ranked mode. Things like, you know, for tournament settings, obviously they need to adjust the spectator mode because that thing hasn't really been touched that much as far as I remember.
They improved it a little bit. Looks like they added, lag compensation and hit markers, which is pretty big. One of my biggest problems with watching.
Oh yeah,
replays.
they did add the different tick rates if everyone is on the same note. But yeah, I think it's well worth the price. And I guess this is the final question would be, what do you think the patch cycle, the content cycle, things like that has to be? Because whether you like it or not, we're in that era where, you know, you can't just go, here's the game, guys, have fun for as long as you possibly can. Hopefully it's, you know, 10 years, yada, yada. You know, like Melee hasn't had a patch in obviously never because it's a disc-based game, but people are still fucking playing that game. But now because of League and all those things where it's like every 2 to 3 months going to be a new character. Or now for this, I don't think it's going to be a character. You're going to have to invent new maps because adding too many characters, you're not going to be able to survive with like 100 characters in Overwatch. It's just too ridiculous.
I'd like to see new skins every month or 2 months.
That'd be easy.
Yeah.
Quotes, you know.
And then maybe a new map every half a year. Maybe a new character or two new characters a year, something like that. That would keep me interested for a very long time.
I think what they need to do is, okay, so if we define content in Overwatch, I think, for instance, if you introduce a new map, that's not as big of an impact. It might be more work than a character, but it's not as much content as a new character. Because if you think about it, one character just destroys the entire idea of what a meta could be, you know?
Yeah.
Like, depending on the character. Unless he's garbage, then, okay, everything stays the same. Otherwise, like, there's new counters, like, everything changes. It's like you put an apex predator into an ecosystem, everything's changing, right? Yeah. So, basically, the biggest content portion you can release, and I think they correctly understand this, they're saying our content are our heroes, mainly, right? So their idea is basically the right one. I think they realize that has the biggest impact. And to be honest, I hope, like, because of the reasons I mentioned, I hope if they introduce, let's say, 6 characters a year, I hope they do it in packs of 3, so they don't have trickle in situations where the meta changes every 2 months, but it's more like, okay, 3 months. Let's say we get 3 characters at BlizzCon. That's fine, right? It's quite a good opportunity to introduce them too.
That's what we got last year.
Exactly, and then something sensible to the tournaments schedules or the circuit system possibly we will have. Something sensible. Dude, like, okay. I don't know if it's me. I'm not sure.
I don't know. Skype's just an asshole.
Yeah.
We just got to deal with it and apologize. But do you think that they need to release because of the way that, you know, obviously because they're not the same game, but I believe most of Blizzard's games do eventually influence each other, like how Diablo with the random BS has influenced like the new WoW gear and things like that. Do you think that the whole Heroes of the Storm having 12 different game types, do you think they're going to continue to try to invent new game types and release new game types?
That's a very good question.
I kind of hope they do, because I'd like to see them, because I'm feeling not satisfied with the current game types 100%. I like them, but I'm not satisfied.
But how much do you release before, CSGO, you can have 50 maps and then go, okay, these 10 maps are, our current lineup for competitive. But if you do that for Overwatch and you have 5 different types, so you have assault, payload, control, A and B, now you have so many things to, be good at and have a different meta for. Do you think it's going to be like, okay, well, we're going to drop, payload? It's not competitive anymore in this hypothetical situation. So you're going to have control, assault, and game type B. So game type A and payload are now just out there for pubs to play. Do you think by releasing more and more game types, it's going to make some of the game types fall off?
If it's better, probably. If it's more, I guess, more fun to watch and more fun for people to play, then yes, it'll be more popular.
I mean, this is already happening, right? It's like nobody's actually playing Hanamura or Anubis, right? They're already being pushed out of the competitive scene. And okay, like, obviously we don't have the choice as players to choose which maps not to choose. Yeah. So I wonder if they're ever going to introduce something like this. But other than that, we're going to be forced into playing these modes. And I really hope if they introduce something, and to be honest, that's kind of a cheap thing for me to say because I have actually no idea what that would be. But I really hope they get an understanding of what they want Overwatch as a competitive game to be and what's beautiful about it. What brings the viewers. What is not so cluttered and super hard, and we have like a defined rule set where everyone can go like, yeah, that makes sense that they're winning for what they're doing right now, and not this issue we are currently having with stopwatch and the sudden death stuff. Like that issue could be solved by, obviously, a lot of work by introducing a game mode, and which would require new maps most likely, and if they are coming up with something that could really, bring out the beauty of the game, the different skill sets that we highlighted early in the show, without being too cluttered and kind of providing clarity and a common goal where everyone's like, yeah, that happened, and I kind of understand why that happened, and that was quite awesome, then it would obviously be probably a pretty good thing.
The only problem I'm thinking of, and I don't know if I've talked about this before, is that being a huge, Dota / I used to play League person, the thing that kind of irks me about Heroes of the Storm is that when you play League or when you play Dota, it's the same map every time. It's just you progressively getting better, more efficient, predicting where people can be, predicting where, yada yada, so on and so forth. But it's still, when you start the game, there's a lot of different characters and things like that, but the initial stage itself is always the same. So when you bring that into like Heroes, and Heroes of the Storm has 12 different game types, so you're not technically even doing the same thing every time. It just becomes, how do you practice and refine and become better over time when there's just so many different things to practice? And obviously you'd be good at the game, whatever. But it just feels like if they continuously add new rules and new rules and new rules, it becomes this broad spectrum of, okay, we're going to have so many different maps under so many different rule types. How do you determine which one's the best, other than what's more fun and what's more fun to watch?
If they force players to play these new modes, hypothetically, if they do make them, and these new broadened rule sets, people aren't going to be too happy. There's always going to be a subset that'll be bitching about one type or another, like, oh god, it's King of the Hill again, all it is a spam fest, and kind of crab about it. That'll probably be pretty prevalent. So if they do expand it, hopefully they give the players the option to pick, at least in maybe casual, what they want to play. That way, people can focus on what they want to do. Because I wouldn't want to play. Let's say they come up with like all tank, like one of the weekly things they have now is like all tanks. I wouldn't want to play that, like, and that if that was in the rotation, I'd be pissed if that came up, and I wouldn't want to get good at it. I'd want to focus on payload or whatever.
Yeah, but like even already now, it's like okay, I can just play. I can hope to just play payload over and over and over and over and over again, and then they're like, okay, we're gonna throw this at you. And it's in the rotation, and you're like, well, shit, I'm playing ranked, and I have no idea what I'm doing on this map. I wish you could queue for payload, or you could queue for a couple of them and take, I don't want to play control point. I think it's stupid, just play assault and payload and just practice those ones.
Something that StarCraft does, a similar situation they have is maps. They go through a seasonal map rotation. Maybe if Blizzard adopted that for this, it'd be like, this season it's payload and capture point or whatever, and just do two modes.
Correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not a huge StarCraft person, but aren't most StarCraft maps pretty similar? They're just different hills and different starting areas.
Yeah, pretty much. They're pretty much like.
It just seems like maps, they're so much easier to make.
That's the point. Yeah, that's the point. They're so much easier to make. They that's the problem, right? The rule sets on some maps can really dictate the pace of the game, right? So, for instance, 2-player maps used to be always like, okay, everyone knows where the other is. There's no RNG and scouting patterns and everything. Like, it does dictate somewhat the game, right? So, for instance, there were maps that were huge maps and where it was safe, for instance, for a Zerg to go 3-hatch before pool or something, right? And that really, you obviously don't know what you're talking about. Or like 6 pools were better or something. So it's like, it really can dictate the pace of the game, but it doesn't really change the entire skill set. What you're looking at, and because they're so much easier to make, as in you don't need the art. It's not necessarily less complex. Obviously, there's some stuff where the map makers are like, it's so obvious that the tank spot here is so retardedly overpowered and shit, how could anyone make this? And obviously there's a lot of complexity to StarCraft maps, but in Overwatch you need the entire art, you need to, there's so much going on, like interactively, you need these doors to open at some points, unlock new map positions, so there's a lot of work going into these maps, so it's even more important for Blizzard to really look before they start doing these things, like really evaluate, is that at the core of the philosophy we have for this game before they even introduce these new maps.
I think we've touched on this before, but I think ultimately, instead of making new modes or new maps, I'd almost rather them focus on making mod tools and just have community do it. Like if they were given a choice of making their own stuff or giving support to the community, I'd rather them give it to the community and just see what they come up with.
The only problem, though, especially with what I've seen in the Dota community, is that you'll have a bunch of people who will make mods, but they'll also, you have to realize that those people aren't getting paid to make those mods, and they're just going to sit in limbo forever and possibly die, or possibly you get that 1 out of 100 people who make a nice map.
There's ways. I don't know about Dota. I've never played Dota, but
I mean it's the same thing as
I'll use StarCraft 2 as an example again. There's
arcade, and it's like, there's some. Oh shit! I think we lagged out. But I was saying actually, StarCraft Arcade. When I go on there and I've perused it, just because there are some fun game types, it seems like also a lot of those games just sit there and just don't get updated.
Some do.
Or like they're really shitty games, like stupid stuff.
There's a lot of shit.
Like it floods the market, yeah.
But there's ones that get upvoted, and there's ones that content creators feature who find fun, and they explode, and they're usually pretty fun. There was one mod I played a lot of, which was taking the StarCraft 1 mechanics and putting it into StarCraft 2 units. That took off quite heavy, and I played quite a bit of it just because it was visible within the community, and it was pretty good queue times. People were playing it quite a bit. Yeah, so there's a lot of crap, but there's also, the diamonds in the rough that come up too that are worth playing and could take off and be their own thing at some point.
Yeah, I think in general, if Blizzard looks at their games, for instance, let's say Warcraft with all, World of Warcraft with all the add-ons that really increase the experience. If you look at obviously all the maps that were both in Warcraft 3 with Dota coming out of it, and in StarCraft and everything, like fun maps.
I mean, Warcraft 3.
Oh, we're lagging again.
Came from the original Dota clone. If something come out, that'd be ridiculous.
Yeah. So I really hope they're going to, look back at these situations they had and realize that their community is actually quite awesome at coming up with great content, and that they will provide us in some way with these tools. Like the recent games, it's not happening as much anymore. For instance, look at Heroes of the Storm. Okay, the best thing that's actually happening in Heroes of the Storm, and honestly, I would have never touched that game for that long. Basically, an external ranking system, right? I would have probably not played Warcraft 3 as long. I would have not played StarCraft, where I still sometimes log on and just play some Foodman Frenzy. Then like if you want to really promote this IP, make it something like just help your developing fans to come up with something and make the system more open to allow for these creative sparks within your community. And I really hope that's currently I don't see any approaches. Like the APIs are closed. You don't see any possibility for unless you want to start screen grabbing and having software interpret screenshots and damage over everything. There's no, from my to my best knowledge, there's nothing to analyze right now. And unless they program that in eventually coming replays, there's currently nothing the developer could realistically do to increase the gameplay experience. Obviously, there's communities created content around it, but it's not really integrated in the game. And I really hope they provide these tools for these brilliant people that have always been around Blizzard games.
Yeah. I personally think modding is a lot farther down the line than where we're at right now. I think it's probably going to be at least a year.
Yeah.
I don't even think the game... I think the game is solid right now, but I do think they're going to make a lot of changes by the end of the year. Because games these days tend to don't release how they end up being, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
They release it, and then they make just huge changes along the line.
Yeah, they actually said they didn't want to do that, but I think they are not going to get away without it. It's changes these days is also because of how attention span works with gamers, and obviously there's always an awesome game around. You kind of want these content updates. I'm super excited for some of these content updates from my favorite games. We can jump back in, and that's basically also the Overwatch system, right? You buy it once, and then you're never behind on the pay or something it's not like League of Legends where you need to grind your IP so you can buy the newest hero right away, right? It's not like you feel punished for not playing for a while. So when these big content updates come that provides, novelty.
Yeah.
Novelty. Yeah. Then that's basically what they need a solid cycle of these changes to just keep it fresh. That's basically how it has to be.
Okay. Other than that, I actually was just looking, and beta starts on Tuesday for early access open for anyone who has pre-purchased the game or anyone that has had a friend code. And as far as filming this, today is Thursday, so tonight, I don't know technically if it's tomorrow. Tomorrow's the cutoff for the open beta the early access. So if you haven't pre-purchased it, you will not be able to play those first 2 days. Other than that, what?
I actually haven't pre-purchased yet.
Oh
but
my god!
I get more than enough friends to ask if they want to give me the code. Yeah, I've been totally slacking on that shit.
Yeah, man. What are you gonna do when you're gonna have it by the time? What is it? We're 4 days shy of a month, or 4 days, whatever the term is. Yeah,
true.
It's a little less than a month away.
Well, not like I do anything else on time, you know.
Yeah,
it's just my mantra.
Okay. Well, I think that about wraps us up for this week. I think we're just rambling on. If you guys actually want to add, I don't know how you guys feel about putting your battle tag out there. I'm going to put my battle tag, or ask one of you when it's posted to YouTube to put my battle tag in the description. So when open beta hits, you guys can add me and we can play some games, trying to get more community feel to the Watchpoint community. Try to organize, like I said a while ago, I want to organize, if I can, in-houses is what we call them. I don't know if that's the name everyone calls them, but like stuff like that, where it's instead of going a bunch of random people you'll never see again, we can kind of do a 6v6 and play against the same people on like a weekly basis. Something like that would be cool. I hope that they actually do have like a group tab. It's not technically a guild, but I know you'll be able to eventually create like a channel so people can join that channel and talk in that channel, or even like a Discord channel we could make. Something like that would be cool. That's a lot of talk right now that has nothing set in stone. Other than that, guys, we will see you in the next cast. Hopefully we will be all set up to do live. I know we're not going to have the fanciness that we have currently because it's going to be our first attempt at live. So we're going to try to just get everything stabilized and then advance the same way that we have been doing with our YouTube videos. We went from still images to videos now, thanks to Vulcha, and we're just going to slowly progress like that. But other than that, I think I've said that twice now. We will see you guys next week. Have a good night, day, and see you in open beta.